I'm pleased to welcome Rich Gallagher. He's the Chief Product Officer of Energage, which are specialists in analyzing, understanding, and increasing employee engagement. Today, we're going to be talking a bit about how Energage is helping enterprises forge a winning workplace culture. Rich, welcome to DTV. Could you please just start by telling a little bit about your background and your role in helping to drive workplace engagement?
Thanks, Avery. Happy to be here. First, a bit about my background. I've been leading product strategy and development for more than 20 years or so, primarily into B2B SaaS and human resources, talent management, media services, and healthcare. Essentially, my focus has been on creating commercial value in complex and particularly data-driven marketplaces. Our company, Energage, and I'm the Chief Product Officer there. Being a B Corp, Energage is what we refer to as a purpose-driven company. Our help to organizations is to turn their employee feedback into that incredibly impactful business intelligence, as well as authentic employer recognition when they're utilizing some of the national recognition programs, including our Top Workplaces program. And so that's what we see as our greatest impact upon corporations today.
Yeah, this whole challenge of especially now kind of keeping connected with your employees is a big challenge. You guys have been doing it for like 14 years. So what are some ideas about how people could be doing it better, and what you've seen in terms of metrics to measure performance, and of course, how has this all been impacted by COVID and people working from home?
Sure. It's interesting because, in my career, actually, one of the things that I've always been personally motivated by was this idea of this intersection between really hard, really important things to do, and ideally doing that as well with people you really want to be around. And boy, have we found ourselves in unprecedented times. Companies are under enormous pressure, especially to maintain their engagement with their employees. Employees themselves under amazing stress, now highly virtualized, personally and professionally stressed. So when I look at the value our company is trying to bring to the marketplace, and also the things that personally motivate me, it just really feels like it meets that really hard, really important work right now. And it's amazing because in a matter of days, across the world, everything changed. And if we're really willing to be honest, it's not a single change. It's a progression, right? It's a cascade of continuous changes. And we really have no idea what the extent of these changes will be, or whether or not this whole notion of normal will ever find itself, back into our lives. And so it'll be different for sure. And it might, represent something that appears to be normal, but it'll be different for sure. And organizations are incredibly transformed right now, transfixed, in that, again, in a matter of days, they had to significantly reset their approach to their business, virtualizing, understanding the concept of how to execute their business with new terms like contactless, right? And all things that supported that. And so we've seen that translate into the challenges for employee engagement in a number of different ways. It has absolutely stretched and strained a company's relationship with their employees. But the data we have at least suggests today that it's not broken. And I think that represents a real opportunity to acknowledge where we are, but also to have hope that if companies take the right actions, that they can get to the other side of this, whatever that other side looks like.
And what are some of those right actions that you'd recommend people take that you've seen work really well?
Sure. And so one, to me, it's really about embracing embracing that things are different, and you can't change it, right? You can't wait them out and just wait for things to return, right? So it's about acknowledging that the condition is what it is, right? And as I said, resetting your ideas around terminology. Employees are seeing the communications in their business now stronger than they ever have. But we also know that communication from their perspective is top down. Yeah. We also see that they're struggling now increasingly more with interdepartmental coordination. So companies have to acknowledge that it isn't just about supporting the information flow from top to bottom, but they also have to make sure that they understand that departments have to talk as well with each other and coordinate with each other. And now that everybody's virtualized, we know that employees appear to be increasingly loyal, especially respectful to what the companies are doing to support them. But we also see that in this difficult time, that employees are seeking meaningfulness in the work that they do, right? They're seeing with all this turmoil and trouble in the world, they want the work that they're doing to matter, right? And so they're challenging themselves and they're challenging the companies to, let's do important work, right? Let's adjust our business if necessary to be part of the greater good, to help, right? Not exploit the situation, right? But give back in many ways to the situation. And one of the things I thought was quite interesting was just how a number of businesses have had to pivot their approach to how they supported their marketplace, how they supported the world in many ways. But Virgin Orbit, which is a company that when it entered this year was providing launch services, right, to the low orbit satellite industry, they're making ventilators, right? Prada, Yves Saint Laurent, right? When they entered this year, were clearly making high-end fashion. They're now have many lines now they're making of masks to first responders and other things. They're supporting that industry in that way. To even small contributors, an organization called the Big Barrel Distillery in Kentucky, who used to be making craft bourbons and whiskeys, is now making hand sanitizer. And so these adaptations are examples of how companies are just choosing to understand the situation, accept it for what it is, and respond to it in different ways than they might have been used to, but ways that they feel are constructive and ideally, in the eyes of employees, hopefully meaningful.
And what are you seeing in terms of how companies are working to engage their employees in a different way, like how the company's communicating? Because it's you can't get everyone together. So how do you get them engaged?
Well, absolutely, everyone is completely embracing this idea of virtualized experiences, right? And so, obviously, doing all the video conferences like we're doing today, just that on steroids, right? But in addition to that, especially in this recognition that employees are just dispersed, right? They're also acknowledging that they have to maintain multiple connections to those employees. And so, for example, in our ability to solicit or otherwise receive unsolicited feedback from employees or companies now are opening those options wide open, right? So they're now much more engaging of SMS interactions with their employees, even though before they would have been a little bit sensitive about that. They're engaging over over personal emails, not just over the corporate emails, and so they're just embracing just what have been established technologies, but they're just seeing those as open channels of communication bidirectionally with their employees, when before they would have restricted the channels, right, or otherwise just limited them. And they're now just completely wide open to that. And that we're seeing a lot of companies today as well, just fundamentally deciding that they're moving paperless in terms of their internal operations and those things, prompted obviously by the pandemic conditions, both the logistics as well as the medical risk of moving paper between humans.